Hey there, I'm here to interrupt your regularly scheduled entertainment. Originally, this was going to be completely unscripted, but unfortunately, I kept rambling a little too much, so upon like the fifth or sixth take for this audio, I decided to just throw together a quick script instead. Getting this out of the way right here at the beginning of the video, if you enjoy anything about the video, the content, my voice, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out and I appreciate all of your support. General content warnings for this video would include things like discussing predatory behavior, including things against minors, sexual language, a lot of cursing, past childhood sexual related trauma, and general just like kind of like speculative like things, and also any sort of reference to illegal activities are all alleged until proven in a court of law. So at the time of making this video, it's been about a day and maybe a few hours since I saw that James Charles was trending once again on Twitter, and being someone who wants to get like more into the commentary space, I decided to go ahead and click on said trending tag and find out what little old Jamie has been up to this time. Unsurprised and still disappointed, it was the information that once again James has been inappropriately DMing people on social media in his desperate attempts to get a boyfriend. Taking the newly linked DMs between James and the other individual, someone that goes by the username Shouton or something like that, James had decided to use something called the Vanish feature on Instagram. This mode, which is also available on Facebook, it's a meta thing, is basically like Snapchat in a sense in which the messages will disappear after a while, which in turn narrows down the window in which people can screenshot things sent to them. I don't currently believe that they notify like the people when the messages are captured in any sense, but feel free to correct me in the comments, in case I'm wrong, because I don't use the Vanish feature. This DM, like many that have been leaked in the past, is kind of just another rendition of James flirting with someone in an overtly sexual manner, basically like promoting a lot of sexual things about himself, and also strangely comparing being in a relationship with like benefits to being at a job, which is strange, and it kind of shows a pretty warped perspective of what James considers dating relationships to be like, in my opinion. Now, him sending a series of messages making a job offer to something as a method of asking someone out isn't necessarily a problem within the situation, even if I think it's really fucking strange as hell and kind of a lot to unpack. The issue is that, once again, he's using social media in order to flirt with people, despite the fact that he has been criticized many times in the past for doing so, and even referred to the behavior himself as disgusting when he was initially being canceled for it in like 2021. He has previously acknowledged that it's something that he should not be doing because social media is not created with the intention of using it as a dating app. And yet, instead of correcting this behavior, like he has insisted that he was going to do, he has instead implemented tactics in an attempt to avoid people screenshotting and leaking his DMs with people, which is very, very shady. These tactics would include using apps like Snapchat, in which things just automatically disappear, and also another benefit to Snapchat for people like James is that the sender is notified when the message is screenshotted. He's also now been shown to use Vanish mode, like in these new DMs, and even resorting to blackmailing people in order to silence them in an attempt not to get his DMs leaked. So, it's delightful. Now, I might get some criticism for this, but I do not believe that it is inherently a problem for James to flirt with people who present themselves in an overtly straight manner. I'm just going to state this like right off the rip here. Many people like to bring this habit of his up as a way to kind of bolster claims that he's a predator, but I think the manner of which a lot of people do this are being kind of a touch homophobic with this narrative, if I'm honest. The issue doesn't rest at him flirting with people who could potentially be straight because unless that person is very open about their sexuality, you do not know whether a person is gay or straight just based on the way that they act or dress or speak. You can't just jump immediately to someone being a predator because of this. You don't immediately think that a straight person walking up to someone is immediately a predator for flirting with them. So why would you assume that a gay person shooting his shot to someone he is interested in shouldn't also, just be treated in the same normal levels that, two straight people flirting with each other can be treated? In fact, I think James is actually putting himself at some pretty high significant risk in just flirting with anybody that he's interested in general, due to so many people tending to have very violent reactions to the even mere concept of a queer person being in their presence, let alone flirting with them. And I hope he's able to mature enough in the long run to take his safety into better consideration, due to the fact that he uses his real name and face to operate his brand. I mean, seriously, if I had any sort of ambition whatsoever, or if I even gave a fuck, I could probably find his home address and phone number fairly easily. The issue with the way that James approaches flirting being creepy isn't due to the fact that he's, flirting with straight people, because like I said, you can't immediately know whether or not a person is gay or straight just based on the way they outwardly present themselves, right? The fact that he immediately jumps into sending very overtly sexual material to people he's interested in is the creepy part. Often we see through these various leaked DMs that James has sent unsolicited nudes to people, which is weird and pretty gross. And according to a quick Google search, sending unsolicited nudes is slowly becoming a crime equivalent to public flashing, which James could in turn be taken to civil court for over eventually. So, just a heads up. If he was approaching his flirting with a more casual way, like any sane, rational, normal person would, like asking someone out to dinner, for example, instead of just immediately jumping right to blowjobs, he probably would have gotten a boyfriend a long time ago at this rate. Even if James wasn't using the shadiest tactics to try to avoid getting caught with flirting on social media, some people might not even be fully aware of why this is an issue that James continues to try to use social media as a dating tool. The biggest and most obvious reason why this is a big issue is that social media platforms are not geared exclusively towards adults. Many websites will allow children as young as 13 to make accounts and operate said accounts, and many children even younger than that will lie about their age in order to make accounts anyway on these websites. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I was doing that, so why aren't kids nowadays, right? A lot of commentary channels, in fact, will like to try to point out that James should be asking for the ID of people to verify their ages before flirting with them, and listen, I actually strongly disagree with this notion altogether, as it can potentially continue to give him an excuse to use social media DMs for his sexual whims. And hot take here, but I believe that minors actively disclosing their ages online is actually kind of dangerous, as your age in your bio might not be enough of a deterrent that you think it would be when it comes to pedophiles targeting their victims. After all, some of the teenagers James has messaged inappropriately had their ages displayed in their bios, and that did not stop him, even if they were allegedly only 14 years old. In addition to social media not being exclusively geared towards adult audiences, you also have to take into account that people using social media are not immediately expecting to be flirted with or sexted or sent nudes the same way that they might expect that out of a dating app. Him sending these flirty messages to people through social media is a part of what makes his behavior completely unsolicited. This might be a touch of a wild take for some people, but I do not believe that major influencers should have access to private messages on social media, or at the very least, they should not have access to private messages with people who are not on the same status as them. Now, I know, roast me all you want, it might sound classist, but influencers and traditional celebrities hold a power imbalance over their fans to such extreme lengths that many of them can cause a starstruck effect on their fans and cause them to act out of character in order to appease their idols. Parasocial relationships are very dangerous, can lead to stalking, harassment, and even violence being enacted on the person with more influence. I cannot even count how many times that, a celebrity has been, harassed, beat up, shot at, killed because their fans were stalking them. I mean, seriously. After all, if celebrities were never in any danger among their fans, they would not need bodyguards. Similarly to how it's a problem that Ned Fulmer was sleeping with his employee, I mean, not including the fact that he was cheating on his wife, I do not believe that a celebrity or influencer can just be casual friends with someone who is a fan of them with less power. As we have seen time and time again with not only James Charles but other influencers, they abuse the private aspect of DMs in order to be inappropriate with their fans. Not always sexual, mind you, but just inappropriate in general. James is merely having the brunt of the suffering right now in terms of the DM stuff, because people are bold enough to call him out for his behavior, but often other influencers and celebrities are also doing pretty similar things in DMs and not being exposed, either because they have their starstruck little fans wrapped around their fingers, or their victims are way too scared to try to expose them. Now, you might be asking, with this mindset, no DMs for influencers, how are brands supposed to reach out to the influencer for sponsorships and the like? And the answer to that is fairly simple. Most major influencers and celebrities have agents or representatives and business-specific emails that brands and sponsorships can reach out to. Then the question is how these influencers like contact one another, get in touch with their friends and whatnot. After all, social media is supposed to be the social part, right? Talk with your friends. To that, I argue that many of these influencers tend to collab with one another. Sometimes they set that up through business emails, and they also like to attend a lot of the same parties. So during these times, they could literally just exchange the phone numbers or call and text FaceTime people, like regular fucking people. It's not a magic solution by any means, but when you become a mega influencer or celebrity, you can become isolated from the general public, and unfortunately, it's just one of the many downsides with this kind of job and status. I mean, honestly, you can hear the testimonies from a lot of mainstream celebrities and how they can't even go out, to eat in public without being mobbed or harassed or paparazzi'd or anything like that, so if they're able to have, genuine friendships among one another, I don't understand why influencers can't have that same level. And also as, brief proof that I don't think influencers or celebrities really need, social media DMs in order to, be friends with one another, is that look up the fact that T-Pain, the rapper, he didn't know about, the message request folder on his Instagram for fucking forever, and it was actually in April of 2021 in which he learned about the message request feature on Instagram, so he realized that for years he was inadvertently, accidentally ignoring tons and tons and tons of people, including other celebrities that were trying to message him. You don't need DMs to be friends with people. But back on topic, it's just gotten to the point where way too many influencers are abusing the private aspects of the DM systems on social media that I don't think that they should have access to them any longer. And influencers having their DMs leaked and then getting mad at their shitty behaviors being exposed is another reason why I think we need to start applying the logic of, if you wouldn't say it in public, you probably shouldn't be saying it in a DM. But again, that might all kind of be a really hot take for some people. Unlike sliding into the DMs on a social media app, dating apps are geared towards adults. Most dating apps that I'm aware of, I don't use them personally, but most dating apps that I'm aware of have an age requirement of being 18 in order to use them, which yes, one could argue that minors would be making fake accounts, but at that point, when you find a child, you simply block and report them, and that is doing your due diligence on the matter. When you use a dating app, you are expected to receive flirtatious messages, and maybe not ones as overtly sexual like the ones that James tends to send out, but it's still a far more appropriate place than on someone's social media DM. Many people on dating apps also just tend to look for casual hookups, which might be more receptive to the I got a huge ass sex that James likes to send, which I know James is technically looking for a more long-term partner, but jumping to offer sex is only going to give him hookups in the long run. Listen, I get that he's desperate, but unfortunately, being too horny and mean is a big detriment to him. It's one of his big downfalls. From a lot of his leaked DMs, he just doesn't seem to get that much of his issue is just that he comes onto people way too strong, way too fast. Dial it back a little bit. Put on the lid. Let it simmer a little bit, dude. Despite the fact that James needs to be on dating apps as opposed to social media, he has stated in the past that he's had problems with dating apps. Primarily the fact that people make fake accounts to match with him in order to troll him, which yeah, that can suck. Being flirted with only to find out that it was a real knee slapper to someone can indeed hurt your feelings. I've been ugly my whole life, I would know. But there are dating apps geared towards celebrities that you can subscribe to that would significantly cut back on the amount of no-name internet trolls wanting to bother you. In fact, one of them that I literally just Google searched, it requires you to pay to be a part of it, so people that can't afford to be on it wouldn't be able to bother you. Another issue that James tends to have with dating apps is that he is prone to targeting the wrong audience with his profiles. It's been outstit in the past that James has marked himself as a woman on a dating app in order to allow straight men to be able to match with him. James himself has stated that he doesn't really identify as a woman, so him wanting to target straight people to match with on a dating app is obviously going to lead to some negative repercussions. Again, he is lucky people haven't tried to attack him yet for this behavior. He really needs to get a lot more careful. I don't even like the dude, but I think he's kind of pressing his luck in this matter. I'm legitimately terrified for his safety at times. I believe the real reason James doesn't particularly like using dating apps is because he's not able to exude the same amount of control over people on a dating app as he is on a social media app. James has stated in the past that he likes to go for straight men because he likes a challenge. He believes through the Kinsey scale, his interpretation of the Kinsey scale, that everybody is a little bit gay, which I can get into my own thoughts and opinions on the matter, but it's not his job to try to unmask people who are secretly queer in the manner in which he is attempting to do so. One can implant the idea of someone not being cishet to an individual, but once you try to start really pressing someone on what you think their sexuality is or what their gender identity is where you really start to become a fucking douchebag and need to back off. Everyone experiences their journey of self-discovery differently. You cannot forcibly crack the egg. You will hurt the bird inside. Speculation, but one of the reasons I believe that he doesn't like to try to date people on the same social level as him is because if he had the same influence as his partner, he might not feel that he brings enough to the relationship in order to keep that person around. He's not understanding that there's more to himself than his body and money, and in turn, I think that he doesn't really see much more in his potential partners than their bodies and how he, quote, is better than them. James having this really intense need to try to control his potential partners is a big indicator that he needs counseling or therapy of some kind. He stated in his own channel on some sort of storytime video or whatever that the way his family found out he was gay was not within his own control, coupled with the fact that the situation involved a pretty intense sexual trauma when he was a child. I feel he now seeks out that control in his life similarly to the manner as the people that caused the trauma in the first place. Having this overtly sexual attitude and personality is often linked with past childhood sexual trauma incidents, and he definitely needs to seek help for that. It's not normal to continuously offer up your body to potential romances. His need to control, based on the fact that he wasn't able to control his own coming out, is very apparent with his interpretation of the Kinsey scale that I mentioned before, and that everybody is a little bit gay. I don't believe he necessarily actually targets people who he thinks are just straight. He targets people who he thinks are in the closet. The challenge isn't that he's trying to convert someone per se. His challenge is that he's trying to get someone to out themselves or potentially out someone. It's just unfortunate that this trauma he has resulted in him becoming the same type of sleazy predator that caused his trauma in the first place, if you really think about the parallels between the two situations. I just hope that he's able to get the help he obviously needs before he does enough to land himself in jail, since he's already well on his way to be putting on a sex offender registry at this point. Now, what happens from here? How do we get James to finally hold himself accountable and to stop doing all the shit that continues to get him in the same trouble over and over again? Simply put, the last time he made any real effort, to actively change his behavior was when brands and sponsorships started to pull away from him in very rapid succession. I stand with the notion expressed in Hannah Needs to Yell video series, in which James Charles needs to be either demonetized or deplatformed for his behavior. As an influencer, being a content creator is no different than working a regular 9-to-5 job, in my opinion. If a random Karen is screaming slurs and trying to fight people at the supermarket and someone records that behavior and sends it to her boss, she will be fired. This is because even if you're not actively on the clock for your job, if you are easily traced back to your place of employment, you're considered a representative of that business and then can be terminated for your outside behavior. And I personally do not find this any different than social media work. If you are known to be a YouTuber and you are acting out of control all over the internet but are known as a YouTuber, it should fall upon YouTube to punish that individual for their behavior. Technically speaking, I do not think it's entirely realistic to expect someone to be entirely deplatformed off of any sort of social media platform, since even if you were just banned, you can just make a new account. But at the very least, being demonetized could temporarily hit the wallet enough to hopefully be enough of a wake-up call for him to realize that his behavior is no longer being tolerated. Unfortunately, the act of canceling an influencer never really yields the desired results, because as long as someone has that fan base, they will inevitably have the plethora of individuals who are completely ride or die for them, and will continue to enable their behavior, either because A, they don't see the problem with it, or B, they just don't care that there's a problem. And honestly, I feel because so many people have now started to treat James's desperate DM ventures as a joke, that many more people are becoming honestly kind of desensitized to his behavior altogether, which is dangerous for everyone. But I'm going to stop rambling about my thoughts and opinions on this. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed, like I said, please like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, opinions, feelings, leave in the comment section below. This video, like all of my content, is brought to you by Patreon, so thank you so much to Ippo, Chrome, Nick Sanchez, and Ashley for subscribing. If you want to support me on Patreon, tier star is as little as $1 a month. Check out the link in the description. And with that, this is Minji, signing off. Until next time.
I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. 'Cause I can't move on till I let go.